Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
Cross your eyes and scream, man. Scream for your life.
Welcome, Scream Queens, Kings, and Things. Whether you're screaming at movies or the real life stuff, I'm your host, Jenica Olin. This is my 65th episode, and my theme is Motherhood and May. Uncovering the horrors of pregnancy. Believe it or not, pregnancy isn't this miraculous, beautiful experience much of the media portrays it to be. Pregnancy is a story of body horrors, more akin to the Alien franchise chestburster than the fairy tale version we like to tell ourselves. Today's episode is going to be a weird, fucked up hybrid of an indie horror highlight, combined with a normal episode where I break down the themes of the film, but this time it's going to be with the director. The true horror connection here is how women's bodies have literally been used for experimentation because we have the power to bring life into the world. Men are jealous of our ability to grow bones and organs. They also want to create life, but they are misguided fools. I'm pretty sure I'm 100% right on that. In the 1920s, Soviet biologist Ivanov, I don't know if I'm saying that right, hopefully it's correct, attempts to create a human Z, like a chimpanzee, but a human Z, a human chimpanzee hybrid using artificial insemination. So this started in 1926. It started in Africa. With funding from the Soviet Union, Ivanov traveled to French Guinea. His goal was to prove Darwin's theory of evolution and demonstrate that humans were merely advanced animals to undermine the influence of the Orthodox Church. Like, sure, fuck the Orthodox Church, but let's not fuck our women with chimpanzee sperm. Let's not do that. No, he was like, let's see what happens. He artificially inseminated 3 female chimpanzees. So he started with the chimps. One was named Babette, Serena, and Black with human sperm. This resulted in later showing that none of the chimpanzees conceived. Ivanov also proposed inseminating local African women with chimpanzee sperm without their knowledge, but French colonial authorities blocked the plan. I'm honestly shocked that they blocked it. Then we get the Soviet experiments in 1929. After returning to the Soviet Union, Ivanov set up a primate research center. He recruited at least 5 human women who reportedly volunteered to be inseminated with ape sperm. I have a hard time believing that these women voluntarily were like, yep, sign me up for that. I don't think so. Something tells me no. So there were setbacks. The project was delayed because the last available male ape, an orangutan named Tarzan, died of a brain hemorrhage before the trials could begin. So that all ended in the 1930s before new apes could arrive. Ivanov was arrested during a political purge of scientists. He was later exiled to Kazakhstan, where he died of a stroke in 1932. There is a rumor that one of the pregnancies took, but there's absolutely no proof that that ever happened. There is no human Z baby. Today, I'll be covering the 2016 film Antibirth, written and directed by Danny Perez, starring Natasha Lyonne, Chloe Sevigny, and Meg Tilly. The tagline for this movie, there is no escape. Or, after talking to Danny, it should have been grab him by the pussy. If you watch the movie, you'll understand. Some quick trivia about this film. Antibirth gained a reputation for having one of the most bizarre and grotesque finales in modern indie horror. Director Danny Perez wrote the script to specifically subvert traditional gestational bliss tropes in pregnancy, focusing instead on the gruesome and involuntary transformations of the body. Despite its bizarre alien-centric ending, the film relies heavily on practical makeup and effects for its more graphic body horror sequences. Critics often compare the film to a gritty, drug-fueled modern version of Rosemary's Baby or the works of David Cronenberg. Premiering in the Sundance Film Festival's midnight section, the film was described as gross as hell and highly polarizing. Critics of Bloody Disgusting and Scream Horror Magazine praised the gooey practical effects, especially a notorious scene involving a massive foot blister. If you're new here, each episode will have an intro, brief synopsis of the movie, and analysis of the film. Spoiler alert, I've made it my job to spoil the shit out of this movie. Let's set the scene with a synopsis of the movie.
How long have you been feeling like this?
I guess since the other night.
Antibirth follows Lou, a heavily intoxicated drifter living near a military base. Lou spends her days partying, drinking, using drugs, and drifting through life with little direction. One night, after a party at an abandoned warehouse, Lou wakes up with no memory of what happened. Almost immediately, she begins feeling sick. She refuses to go to the nearby military clinic because she has no insurance and instead visits a veterinarian for medical advice. Despite her worsening condition, Lou continues drinking and using drugs while her body begins changing rapidly. A mysterious woman named Lorna notices photographs of missing women connected to the town. She encounters Gabriel, a threatening local drug dealer and pimp who appears connected to whatever is happening around the military base. Meanwhile, Lou desperately tries to remember the events of the night she blacked out. She recalls leaving the party with a man named Warren before everything went dark. Sadie, who's dating Gabriel, avoids Lou's questions and acts as if nothing unusual happened. While working her job as a hotel housekeeper, Lou becomes sick again, passes out in one of the rooms. Lorna finds her and helps her recover. Later on, Lou reveals to Sadie that months earlier she suffered a miscarriage in a nightclub bathroom and believes she is incapable of getting pregnant. Still feeling ill, she takes a pregnancy test that unexpectedly comes back positive. Meanwhile, Gabriel and his associates begin distributing a new drug throughout the town. Their chemist, Jade, dies after testing the substance, complaining beforehand about severe physical symptoms and hallucinations. It becomes clear that Lou was also given this same drug the night she blacked out. When Sadie confronts Gabriel about Lou's condition, he dismisses it, claiming Lou is always intoxicated anyway. Lou's symptoms grow increasingly severe. She begins hallucinating and experiencing vivid dreams where she appears heavily pregnant while being examined by the mascots from a local arcade called Fun Zone. When she wakes up, her body is visibly swollen in unnatural ways. She develops painful wounds and blisters across her body while continuing to use drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. Lorna arrives at Lou's trailer and begins explaining her theory about military experiments taking place near the base. Lou initially dismisses her as paranoid, but her condition continues worsening, and she becomes desperate for answers. Lorna reveals she once worked for the military, operating radio systems, and claims she encountered an unknown extraterrestrial force. Lou realizes she has been unconscious for 3 full days. Lou and Lorna travel to Fun Zone, where Lou confronts Warren about the night she blacked out. Warren eventually admits Gabriel instructed him to deliver Lou to a man named Isaac in exchange for drugs. He claims he did not know what Isaac planned to do with her. Warren warns Lou that Gabriel has connections throughout the town and does not care about the women who disappear. Lorna later reveals a scar on her arm, where she claims doctors removed an implant connected to alien experimentation. She begins caring for Lou as her condition rapidly deteriorates. Gabriel forces Sadie to visit Lou, and Lou reveals strange moving veins beneath her stomach. Lou insists she is not pregnant, but infected by something changing her entire body. Lou, Lorna, and Sadie return to the abandoned warehouse where the party took place. There, Lou experiences flashbacks showing herself being injected with a metallic purple substance. Sadie finally admits she knew Gabriel was involved in experiments being conducted on people throughout the town. Lou and Lorna leave the warehouse and return to the trailer, where Lou suddenly goes into labor. Purple fluid pours from her body as she screams in pain. Lorna attempts to help deliver whatever is inside her, while armed men close in on the trailer. An alien creature's head emerges from Lou, surrounded by purple smoke and hissing violently. Lou loses unconsciousness as armed men storm inside the trailer. The men are revealed to be Gabriel and Isaac. Isaac explains that Lou's toxic body made her the ideal host for the experiment. As Gabriel attempts to restrain Lou, the creature attacks him. The rest of the alien's body tears itself free from Lou, crushing her body in the process. The film ends with the creature standing among the destruction, with its head in its hand.
You should be proud, Lou.
Guess I've just always been a real overachiever.
Now it's time to talk horror, and my guest today is director-writer Danny Perez. It has been a decade since Antibirth, and I'm thrilled to be talking to you about this grungy body horror fever dream masterpiece. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that you like to film so much. I didn't know there's a few of you out there.
Yeah. Well, since I discovered it, I have not stopped thinking about it. I've probably watched it just to get prepared for this interview, like 3 times within the last 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Thank you.
Picking it apart, finding like little things in there. There's a lot of little Easter eggs.
Totally. There definitely is. Those are all very intentional.
I would put this in the category of movies like Spawn and Trainspotting and like Requiem for a Dream, but it doesn't have the reputation of those movies for some reason. And I think I know why.
Why do you think? I'm very curious as a woman, what you think?
Because it's about women.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know what to say to that. I just prefer to work with women. I like female characters in cinema. I always knew I wanted to write for a female character, and I was a fan of Natasha. So yeah, I was always a little perplexed that it didn't reach out to more of the female-minded horror audience. The year it came out, it was the first year that Trump got elected.
Mm-hmm.
Or the first year of the first Trump administration. And I remember like trying to pitch a tagline to one of the distributors, be like, you can just say like pussy grabs back. Like that'll be like, that's like kind of like a good tagline for the movie. And they're like, they're crazy. We can't put that on an ad or something. But yeah, I thought there were a lot of missed opportunities to kind of like have the movie appeal to a more a female audience. So I appreciate you digging it.
Yeah, I think you should have done it. I think stop listening to those people.
Well,
I know you have to.
No, now I know. I mean, to be honest, like the distribution of the film was such a head scratching experience. I mean, these fools, they'll you've seen all the same editorials and pieces like, oh, why aren't people going to the theater, or how come indie films don't reach an audience? How do we not know about all these great films? But I can tell you firsthand, my fucking distributor, they couldn't even get a poster to the theater in Toronto when it was screening there, and it's a Canadian shot. So it's like, really? You guys can't even send a poster to the theater that's playing to put out in the lot? So yeah, mind you, this was 10 years ago. So I was already frustrated with the lack of work ethic and follow through with these people. So yeah, stuff has only changed more than ever as far as how you can distribute stuff and get it out there. But I definitely think the next time I get to do this, I'm not going to listen to a lot of that bullshit, because it's all a sinking ship and everyone's just trying to figure out what the hell to do. So the second anyone tells you this is how it is, they're full of shit. Because if anyone knew how it is, we'd all be a lot more successful, and there'd be a lot more there'd be a better film landscape, Yeah,
no. What they know right now is to regurgitate a bunch of bullshit. Like we're getting so many remakes, and I could go on. We're not here to talk about that. There is definitely a nostalgia going on.
It's really weird, man. It's really lame. Can you believe they're remaking Possession?
So fucking lame.
But yeah, it's like, you know, any other medium where there's photography, painting, soft sculpture, like textile arts, these all had decades and centuries of refinement and evolution. Film as a medium, which I would argue, just as a lover and of the medium and a artist, is kind of the best medium because it has everything, right? It has music, it has costume design, it's performance. It's wonderful. So to go back to my previous point, all these other things had decades. Film, let's be generous. 1920, the talkies, right? You mean to tell me, and let's say this epidemic you're speaking of, the remake culture, it's been almost 20, 30 years now. Like, it's not, you know, it's been like 20 fucking years of remakes and sequels. So I'm going to shave you off 20. You don't even get 100. You mean to tell me the medium of film had 80 years? Mm-hmm. And then we just gave up as audience and as the people that make it? Like, it's really bizarre.
And it really is. And there's so much, like they say, everything's been done. I have been studying film and there's so much shit that has not been done, but it's not the stories that they want to listen to.
Yeah, it is frustrating. Yeah. So it was really hard getting this film financed. I had a lot of doors open to me because I was coming off of other projects and I had Natasha with me, but those doors would quickly got closed the second they read the script or knew that like my approach was going to be. So anyway, yeah, it's frustrating both as a movie lover and an audience member and as someone who wants to make that kind of work.
When it comes to this, a lot of people have compared it to Rosemary's Baby. It's like the alien version of Rosemary's Baby is what they say. But I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's not really. I mean, I like Rosemary's Baby. I'll whatever, but yeah, I don't really. It's a little obvious, a little basic, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too basic to boil it down to that, I think is mine. And I think every time there's a rape movie about consent or anything, they automatically defer to Rosemary's Baby. And I'm sorry, but he did not create the bodily autonomy narrative. So
no, definitely not.
Yeah. So I'm just sick of that comparison a little bit.
I mean, imagine how sick of I am of hearing that or, oh, it's too Lynchian. It's too I was like, oh my God. Like, it's actually like, and I love David Lynch, but it's really not. Like, the second any filmmaker does anything remotely surreal or obtuse or kind of abstract, everyone's just like, David Lynch. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're just not expanding your mind and you're not letting other people explore these concepts. You're just like, you have a schema in your head and that's what you're putting it to it. But that's not what other people are doing. There are other voices to contribute to these genres.
It's a weird time. I mean, I've been out of the game a little bit for a couple of years now. I'm trying to get back into it. But as far as like what is getting passed off as progressive or pretty forward moving, I'm often like, really? That's what we're doing? Now, mind you, there's definitely some really amazing filmmakers out there right now. And I'm not one of these people that's like, there's nothing good new. Like, there's definitely really good stuff out there and really solid filmmaking happening both in TV and film. But it's hard to get stuff like that financed.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so breaking into filmmaking, this was your directorial debut. Mm-hmm. Before this, you directed music videos. How did the music videos help you with this?
I mean, it helped just to kind of be able to do like a lot of smaller projects in a shorter time frame. It definitely got me used to being on a set and working with camera people. So that was really helpful. My goal with Antibirth and like the more abstract kind of experimental passages was to take those techniques as far as the more optical, strobing kind of fantastical moments and incorporate them into a narrative. So as far as whenever I'm approaching any kind of script I want to write or a narrative, I'm a visual minded person. That's kind of like my first stop in my brain. So I like to think of something that I know will provide me fun visual moments. With Antibirth, I wanted to kind of like take those experimental techniques and then to a narrative film. And I think there are moments it's successful, moments where it's a little confusing, but I was just trying to throw everything against the wall in a way.
Yeah. Where I see that the most is like the dream sequence, but I think it works well because it is a dream sequence.
Totally. I mean, you got to have a dream sequence in your film. That's like licensed to just like kind of go ham and have fun. But yeah, that was a fun sequence to put together.
What pushed you towards telling strange and confrontational stories? Because this is a pretty confrontational movie.
Totally. I mean, I'm just a weirdo, for lack of a better word. Like, I'm just drawn to like that element of our culture and society and the people that kind of are in that space, whether it's an artist or someone who's an addict or just someone who operates on the fringes of culture. So I always like, I mean, just personally and creatively, that's the kind of world I like to swim in. So as far as the stories I want to tell narratively, I know that that's what I want to do and the kind of world I want to depict. I think it was combined that just my basic predisposition in that regard, combined with the age I was at. I was early 30s. It was time to have a kid and do all that shit. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not doing that. And so just being the kind of snarky, adolescent minded idiot that I am, I was like, okay, well, a pregnant woman, that's like a sacred cow that our society is like, oh, give your seat to the pregnant woman. Being a mother is a holy calling. And we have to praise pregnant. No, a little upended in the past couple of years with how this country treats women and so forth. But all to say, culturally, that was a sacred cow that the snarky asshole me is like, all right, yeah, I'll turn that upside down. I mean, I was surprised her sticking her belly against the microwave wasn't like a more like shocking moment to people. I was like, oh, you guys are just like fine with that? Like, that seems really fucking dark to me. But you know, I also, mind you, despite all the darkness, I like to laugh. I have a strong sense of humor. So I always like to infuse it with a little bit of a humor.
Oh no, it was very funny. It is definitely like a dark comedy, I would say.
Yeah, it's not like, I'm not really one who's going to make like a Serbian film or some really dark, morose A24, like austere, like thing. I like a little bit of chaos and anxiety and humor. And I think those are the moments that you're, as a filmmaker or just an artist, you're able to put your personality into the work. Mm-hmm. Like all my friends that know me and know me well over the years can definitely see me in the main character as far as things that she says. And maybe that's not good writing as far as like, oh, you should step outside of yourself and write a character. But, you know, that's also a moment that's where the personal comes in. And that's where it's.
Are there any directors that influenced you in this project?
I mean, yeah, I think I was just trying to combine a lot of different genres and things. And I think that's kind of a mistake or just a classic move of a first time filmmaker. And I know I was like, I don't know when I'm going to get to do this again. So I better fucking do all the things I want to do.
Yeah.
But as far as filmmakers I really liked, you know, I wanted elements of a hangout movie as far as just like funny scenes with characters, just like with banter. So whether that's something like Dazed and Confused or Over the Edge, that old Matt Dillon movie where the kids go nuts. Like I wanted elements to be like a hangout movie with Natasha just taking bong hits and then hanging on the couch watching TV. So there's like that kind of 70s indie American drama aspect to it. On the horror front, I'm a big fan of like really campy like B movies from the mid 80s, like Brain Damage or Basket Case. Like they're shitty, but I like that about them. Like Frankenhooker, like it's shitty, but it just exists in its own lane at this point now, 30 years later. So as far as the camp and the aesthetic, so that aspect I really liked. And then from the experimental world, I really like a lot of filmmakers that were making what they call visual music in like the 60s and 70s in the Bay Area. These are just like purely abstract, optically printed films. So I wanted to combine those elements of it as far as like the more abstract passages. So in my head, I was combining all these three elements, like just American indie cinema with elements of like B movie body horror. And then the final thing to really offset everything was like these weird art film elements as far as like the more experimental aspects. And I think for better or worse, whether it's successful or not, I think that was one of the things that definitely turned off a lot of distributors and producers because they were just like, I don't understand it. Is this a horror movie? Is this an art film? What is this? And I still don't give a fuck because like that's the kind of stuff that I like. And that's the stuff that resonated with me when I was younger. And I imagine I'm a bit older than you, but you know, going to the video store and just picking a box that had like some crazy cover and you're like, am I going to watch this? So I like that. It didn't serve me well as a filmmaker as far as getting my next film made, but I stand by it. I think there's a human element that comes from like a schizophrenic kind of manic energy like that. You know, it's not so like rigid, like it's a little sloppy, for lack of a better word. And that to me is indicative of someone playing and having fun. And I like that.
Yeah, no, I saw a lot of humanity in this film, especially when it came to the friend dynamics and just how everyone was treating each other. It is very lighthearted in moments, but there are some very dark themes. And I think even those movies that you mentioned that are the indie horror movies like Frankenhooker and Basket Case and stuff like that, like it's satire, social satire.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some really dark themes in there as well. And I love that genre of horror, especially indie horror, because you can do so much with it. And people might just think it's silly, but if you really look at what they're doing, it's really not silly. It really is tapping into something in our society that people weren't really willing to listen to back then.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think you're spot on.
Yeah. So the origin of Antibirth, where did the initial concept come from? Like specifically, I guess when I asked this question, I guess I mean what she was going to give birth to, because it's this hybrid of different genres in a way, like you had mentioned, but it's very sci-fi and then body horror. And I've seen both of these things, especially when it comes to pregnancy and uncertainty about pregnancy and bodily autonomy, but never so much with aliens. I guess you do see it with aliens some, but not. I feel like this was ahead of its time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you are the target audience, so I really am enjoying this. The film was originally supposed to take place in Joshua Tree, like a desert kind of atmosphere. I live in Southern California, and I go out to Joshua Tree a lot. It's a wonderful place. And I would see these young women working at the gas stations or the locals, for lack of a better word. And they're just like, you know, Red Bull addled, shitty piercings. And like, just, I would be wondering, like, where do these chicks party? Like, and they're like, that's a character that I would want to follow in a movie. So I originally had it set in this kind of like desert atmosphere, very kind of like isolated and a little spooky, but also just very cinematic as far as like the mountains and the rocks and so forth. And just at that time in the mid 2000s, I was pretty heavy, getting really heavy into just like UFOs and conspiracy theories. And I kind of pumped the brakes on that a little bit during the run up to the first Trump administration, because I was just seeing how it was being, mind you, not just seeing how quote unquote red pilled adjacent some of these conspiracy theories were. And I was like, this is a slippery slope. I literally caught myself talking to my wife about adrenochrome and like Epstein shit. And I was like, yeah, you're like 2 steps away from being like some anti-Semitic bullshit. So, but just to give you where my head was at the time, I was reading a lot of just like fun, you know, alien lore about implants and abductions and all the my lab stuff. And there's a line in the movie, and I didn't do a good job of writing this or explaining this, but where Meg Tilly says, oh, this has my lab written all over it. And my lab is a UFO term for military abduction. And it basically means these people that would have these encounters or claimed, oh, I was abducted, they would go to the authorities, and then the military would literally kidnap them and, you know, put a black hood over their head and say, hey, don't tell us to anyone, shut the fuck up, we'll kill your family type stuff. And to me, that was such like just so much gross dualities to that, as far as you have someone, and mind you, this is if you believe it or just for the context of this scenario,
yeah,
with someone who's abducted, had this really intense, confusing, pivotal moment in their life that they're struggling to find, is it fear or is it good? Meaning that I can like be like really scared of this, or I can take this as a sign that there's something spiritual out there outside of humans, right? And then this fucking dumb man-made institution known as the government comes in, corrupts that, and turns it into something that can be weaponized or reverse engineered, as far as, oh, give us that implant that's inside your head and we're going to look at what metal that's made. The point being the duality of taking something potentially beautiful and spiritual and turning it into something commercial or weaponized is so like gross and lame of a thing that humans do. And we see it across the board. We've done that with sex, pornography. We've done that with film and streaming. We've done that with music and like not giving artists their money, et cetera, et cetera.
Basically colonizing aliens.
That's actually that's not the real threat in the movies. The threat is the forces on the land that are meaning the government and human error. I came across that idea, my lab, military abduction, when I was reading interviews and just going down YouTube rabbit holes on alien shit. I just always like dualities. For me, it's all about like taking something and like inverting it or giving it like a little bit of a tweak. And like my monsters and my creatures, they're not going to be like Pumpkinhead or American Werewolf in London, films I love. But to me, what's the real challenge to be scary or freaky is to take, for lack of a better word, something pink and pop colored and kind of playful and just tweak the eyes a little bit or tweak that mask or tweak the camera angle or add a different sonic element as far as a low wah, 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 wah to kind of like to freak people out. It's pretty easy to like freak somebody out with like someone with like bags under their eyes and blood coming down their mouth and like an axe, right? Standing in a doorway. But if you can freak somebody out with like a fun zone, like Teletubby type of like character, like that's pretty fun to me,
Yeah, no, I love the fun zone scene and just those characters. They were kind of like, it was kind of like Barney and Teletubby combined in a way.
Totally.
Like paper mache mask. I love the colors. They were so creepy. I don't know if that was real. I would not want to go there for my birthday.
I wore one of those. I think when the film came out, I did a film festival in Tulsa, and I brought one of those costumes. I went around the city just dressed in one of those costumes, handing out flyers for the screening. It wasn't too successful. I think I just looked like a crazy person walking around Tulsa, but it was a fun promotional attempt.
Yeah, no, I like it. I love it. I feel like people should be dressed up as them, though. I feel like that should be out there somewhere.
One day, we'll keep pushing this to cult status. We'll get there.
Yeah, we will. We'll get it. It's going to be a cult classic. I swear.
I mean, I encounter people, not to be so self-deprecating and humble about it. I know the movie has its fans, and I respect that. I appreciate that as a fan and a movie lover myself. I'm a little bit older now. I'm fucking pushing 50. Honestly, the best moments of my life were like hanging out in my friend's basement as a preteen, watching movies and making jokes. Like that's, I mean, not the best time of our life, but fond memories, right?
Yeah.
If I can contribute something to that canon of work where a bunch of homies can sit around and make jokes and be like, whoa, like I'm psyched. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie feels less about pregnancy overall and more about how society treats the less dead.
Exactly. Yes.
Tell me about that.
The final spoiler alert, the final punchline of the movie is that the main character, Lou, her toxic lifestyle has actually made her a perfect candidate for this mission, this task of creating this hybrid race that can exist in this environment. And, and again, it's not explained very well. We had to cram a lot of stuff in the writing, but that's why you have this final scene with the villain character saying she can survive in this environment and she'll be perfect for it. And in earlier drafts of the script, there are these ideas of more expanded language as far as like, no, it's a colony and we need people to work there, but no one wants to go there. So you know what? We'll take all the poor, wasted people that have been like ruining their bodies with high fructose corn syrup and uppers and whatever the fuck, and we'll send them. And to me, exactly as you said, it's less about pregnancy and more just a comment on, and it's a cynical comment, but I'm a cynical person, but society will find a way to grind you up and throw you in the machine. Oh, don't worry. Just because you're poor and uneducated and like drug-addled, we'll find a way to use you. We'll find a way to turn you into a cog in the machine and make you expendable. Like, so even when you think, and mind you, there's a certain bit of rebellion in that lifestyle, right? Taking drugs and just kind of being in those elements. And I can certainly relate to that. But like, even when you think you're rebelling and fighting against the machine, like they'll fucking find a way to use you and grind you into the dirt. And so that's really like what the movie is about. And I am not one of these people. I'm very lucky. I have safety nets. I have a loving family. I have wonderful friends. Like I feel fortunate in that regard. But yeah, there are people out there that don't have that, those abilities or that support. And it's like, I feel for them.
Well, my dad was a drug dealer and he's a drug addict. And I was able to see a lot of these people firsthand. The kind of trailer that Natasha was living in, Lou was in, like, I've definitely been there, hung out there, got drunk and passed out there. Like, I never became a drug addict, but it's because I saw what was happening to these people. And I saw how they were like, it was a source of escapism, but they really just, they were throwing their lives away. And not that it's their fault. Like, I think you do a good job explaining like just the humanity of these people when it comes to certain reasonings that, you know, they would, especially when it came to Lou and her reasoning of like, well, they're just going to give me a bunch of drugs anyway. And I already have that. Like there's a lot there in the commentary between these characters. And I think it's more realistic than people would like to admit. I mean, it's important. Yeah, I think it's important to not lose empathy for people in the throes of addiction or people in those communities. It's really easy to dehumanize them and be like, you know, these fucking people. But yeah, there can be a sadness. I'm not going to say that everyone that's on drugs is depressed or running from something, because some people just like to party and get fucked up, and that's fine too. But there is and I can relate to this to myself. There is a nihilistic, self-destructive tendency there that if you really just look one more step past, you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm running from some shit, or I'm a deeply unhappy person, and that's why I'm burying my stuff. And that sucks. You know, it sucks that people have to live that way and don't feel like they can get out of it or have autonomy to like whatever, make better choices for themselves. So I definitely didn't ever want it to enter into like trauma porn or poverty like porn or but yeah, just hard to balance all those elements. Yeah, no, it's a very complicated thing to cover. I saw in another interview that you wrote this film for Natasha and Chloe, and they're close friends of yours. How did you convince them to betray each other? I think what attracted them to the script, or why they really wanted to do it, were more like the hangout scenes and the dynamic. Like Chloe was just excited to be able to do some scenes with Natasha and be in a film with her, and vice versa. And I think they really responded to like that element of the script as far as the dialogue and how they could get into the banter. And there was a bit of improv on the set too, or during shooting, which I'm not precious about my writing. I'm not like the dopest writer in the world. So if I'm working with someone like Natasha or Chloe, I'm totally open to that. But anyway, to go back to your question, as far as convincing them, I think that they were along for the ride. They trusted me and they were open to doing it that way. It took some time. I'm laughing because I'm having a memory of when we shot the scene where Natasha confronts Chloe and she's like, hey, you knew this, you knew Gabriel was doing this and you fucked me up. It was a crazy day. We're racing against the clock, didn't have enough time. And the whole crew was kind of gathered around Natasha. And she gave she kind of like blew us off. She's like, listen, guys, I'm not going to do like this big like Oscar, like, oh, like moment. We're just going to play this scene like how it would play and like we'll figure it out. Makes me laugh thinking about that. So, you know, I think they just wanted it to feel like as organic as possible and not as like heightened as like the rest of the movie. And I think that's a fun duality too. Like I like that element of very stylized, hyper visual world, but with grounded performances. Like the dialogue. I mean, at one point I had Chloe say, she's a spaced out mama. And she gave me shit. She was like, really? You want me to say that? I'm like, no, it's kind of like a throwback to like those campy films that I was talking about earlier when we were talking. And all to say, we always tried to keep the dialogue just like very real sounding and organic. And whereas in a movie that's like in a more stylized film or like a Tim Burton film where everything is so like manufactured, feels very produced. So I think, again, to go back to dualities, I like the duality of like kind of like a rough hangout film in this like hyper visual stylized world. Like it's a weird, like you usually don't see those two things together. I love their dynamic because it was very natural. They're just great. Like Natasha has such a great sense of humor about this like super fucked up situation. And she really brings the comedy to the film. Like I just loved everything that she did. How did Natasha react when she read the fate of her character for the first time? I think she knew that I was kind of swinging for like a really gonzo ending, like a hard left turn. But she was more just like, how are we going to do this? Like, how are we going to shoot this? And
So that was more her concern because she just has more experience on set than I do. So she was kind of like thinking ahead, like, how are we actually going to pull this off? But she was down. To her credit, she was down. She was game. She did the vaginal explosion on Meg Tilly's face, which I think was like a fire extinguisher. Yeah. Natasha did not actually blast out of her vagina. But yeah, she was game, and Meg Tilly was game too. I give her credit for that. I mean, we did one take of that face blast shot, so we had to get her right.
It was excellent as is. I don't think you need that more than once, really.
Yeah.
No, it was great. I figured it wasn't her, whatever you would describe that as, but
yeah, I'm just a big fan of practical effects too. So I knew I wanted a lot of slime and fun, gooey moments to make people go, whoa.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that.
Totally.
So when it came to pregnancy and body horror, we have like the loss of bodily control, fear of invasion and transformation, addiction and paranoia blending with physical horror, women trusting their bodies. I loved that Lou, played by Natasha, she knew that they were lying to her. Everyone's like, you're pregnant. And she's like, fuck you. I'm not pregnant. Like, I know my body. This is not pregnancy. I think you actually did a good job when it came to showing that she was like this kind of toxic incubator that couldn't really carry a child because she did have the miscarriage in the dive bar bathroom months earlier. And just that scene, for me, it served to prove her point of like, I know what my body is doing, and this is not what people are telling me. And that scene was so brutal. How did you get through that scene? And like the little baby was so realistic.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my, I don't like to use the word favorite, but a moment came together as well as I envisioned it. I think the sound designer did a really cool thing with the sound design in that moment that I always really enjoy. I don't have any kids personally, but I certainly know a lot of people with kids and women that have gone through that process. And unfortunately, from what I've gleaned, is that miscarriages are pretty common.
Yeah.
And that I just thought, again, to kind of go back to dualities, must be like, just from a character perspective, must be pretty horrifying for a woman, to go through. And for the father as well, just as far as trying to create a family. But so I thought that just narratively, that was could explain some of her nihilism and reticence to believe that she was pregnant. And I also kind of grounded it in some reality as far as it is something that I think a lot of women go through. The fetus in the toilet, I wish I got to keep, but I didn't. The producers on Antibirth, and I can say this now because I haven't talked to them in forever, are all fucking awful. They didn't let me keep anything. Like they kept that fetus. They were fucking awful. Like Natasha was kind of like, she's a producer on the movie. She was awesome. She was kind of one of the main reasons we got through it, because she was the only producer that had my back that entire production and would like go to bat for me against the other producers who were constantly trying to cut days, cut hours, cut crew people, and just like really hamstringing the production. Yeah. And it's one of the main reasons I haven't gotten to make any work since then, because that's really how you get to make films is you have a team, you have producers, you have a manager that's getting your scripts out there. And I don't have that. But yeah, so how did I get to the producers suck? Oh yeah, they kept the fetus.
They kept the fetus. Yeah. No. Maybe we can make a new one.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. In the spirit of not being a total shit talker, I was the posts, the special effects makeup team, and the camera team all had my back and were all really wonderful to work with. But it was a weird dynamic because Natasha was a producer on the movie, and we were up in Canada, and it was a weird kind of, I'd never met these people before. Like the American producers basically sold the concept of let's do this film with this first time filmmaker guy and these real actors. And, there's these situations that go where you get a tax incentive, right? So they hooked me up with these guys in Canada. And mind you, this was after 2 years of knocking on doors in LA and trying to get the movie done in America. So that's where we ended up getting the movie made. That's the positive. The downside is I was making it with people that did not care about me or the film. So it was a battle like the whole time.
He chose Canadians. That's,
I mean, it's where I had to go. I would have loved to have made the movie in California, but yeah, it's I learned a lot. I'll say that. The first time I shook this one producer's hand, I was like, oh, you're the dude that called me fag in high school. Like, you're exactly that guy. I mean, not literally, but like the kind of guy. And I was just like, oh, this is not going to be good.
Yeah, and they're never the kind of people who are going to support your project.
Nope. But, you know, I learned a lot and I got through it. But yeah, I have not worked with any of them or seen any of them since.
Well, good riddance.
Yeah. If you guys are watching this, fuck you.
The body horror elements were fantastic. Like the peeling of the skin, she's losing her teeth. She had like a weird mark on her neck with like popping veins, the static electricity coming out of her body, and like the whole playing on like magnetism and the foot pus.
Yeah, I love that one.
So the birth scene. We've got this purple goo that pours out of her. It's like her mucus plug drops and then it's just like sprays everywhere. It's pretty great. I loved it.
Awesome.
She's screaming in pain. She basically, this woman who she meets ends up being her, almost like her birth mom, like her, what do you, midwife?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she gets splashed in the face, like you had mentioned earlier. It's fantastic. It's so, and you said it was a fire extinguisher, but it's like red, goopy. It looks so realistic. Like it looks like chunks of something is coming out of her. That's not natural.
It's always hard to do that practically too, because basically anytime you in a movie when someone's getting sprayed or splattered or something, it's some fire extinguisher or some pressurized propulsion system. Yeah. So again, think about stuff going through a tube. Mm-hmm. And anytime you want it to not look like giallo blood or just straight like fake blood, you want to add texture or chunks. Every effects monster guy will always tell you, oh, you don't understand. It's really hard because it's going to clog the hose. And it's like, no, you just put it at the front of the hose. You put it in the front of the tube so it's not clogging it, and then it just blasts it. Anyway, little tip for all you practical nerds out there. But yeah, that's always a challenge, right? You don't want it to look like syrup or like that bright red giallo blood. You want it to kind of have a texture.
Yeah. So the alien head comes out of Lou and it's like hissing. It's got sharp teeth. Mm-hmm. And it's like in this purple haze, and Lorna starts talking to it like it's a baby. Like that was very surreal. I wasn't sure what her reaction was going to be, but the fact that she was like so welcoming to this thing, and
that was all her. That was all Meg. Yeah, and I remember on set. You're bringing me back. I remember on set we all had a good laugh, like when we were shooting, because it was unexpected. I was like, okay, just take it out and let me see how you want to play it. And she played it so tenderly and maternally that it was pretty funny.
It was really like she was a midwife. She's like, she made this thing. I mean, honestly, if you're going to give birth, like that's the position you should be in.
That was something I was trying to figure that out just from a staging perspective. Okay, we're in this trailer. And then also, how do we get that came more from doing some research as far as like how you should be, let gravity do the work, right? As far as it comes out.
Yeah.
Also from a performance perspective, it's like, well, Natasha doesn't want to be on her back, like looking up like, so it's like, it was a combination of things, but
yeah.
Staging, where you stage the actors and where the camera's going to be for like practical effect sequences like this is always challenging, and I feel can make or break the shot, the sequence. Because you know it's like when you're watching a scene and two guys are fighting, and you can obviously tell the guy's like, oh, let me put my fake arm just right in the way, and the other guy cuts it right off, and it cuts to the like it's hard to make it look organic and like chaotic, and that was something I was trying to do.
No, it did look very organic. I loved it. I love this whole sequence of events. It throws you off because you're like not sure what to expect. It's not something I've ever seen before. Awesome. And it's so fun, but also dark. Like the head is terrifying. Like how much was the head practical?
Yeah, totally. The head is 100% practical, animatronic. It took like 3 people to operate it with like, little remote controls and hydraulics. And, I was lucky that I got to do it that way. The stump, like where he gets his head cut off, mm-hmm. That's digital. Like it was an actor with like, just a sock over his head, and they took the head off digitally. And the effects people hated me because they're like, oh, can you not shoot that with like the lightning flashes, the strobe lights? So we'll add those in afterwards. And I was like, no, it's not going to be the same. Like, I know what that's going to look like. And to be fair, it did make their job a lot harder as far as the rotoscoping they had to do. But it was important for me for those lights to look whatever, practical, and then not put in digitally. But yeah, it was 3 people operating the head. But literally the day of we're shooting was the first, like they basically just got to like wire everything together and do like a demo, like a little test. Yeah. And that's kind of, that's the run and gun pace of like an indie film like this. Like ideally we would have had 2 or 3 days just with the head to work down expressions and movements. But no, it's like, oh, the head's here. All right, you get the doctor. Let's see if we can make it work. And, when we got the shots, we made it work. But, that's and again, this is more a note for just other independent filmmakers out there, people trying to do low budget horror stuff. Learn from my mistakes or just learn from this experience. Like, I know you feel like, no, I can do it. No, I can do it. But the thing that we all don't realize with practical effect sequences is like, there's a reset. If you want to do that more than once, it's not the same as shooting 2 actors talking. That reset is now going to take 10 minutes to maybe even an hour to reset the blood, to reset the makeup, to reset the door that you just kicked in. So that stuff takes up a lot of time in your day, which means less shots, less coverage, more unclear indie filmmaking kind of narrative. So I would just urge anyone out there listening or who has an interest in doing practical effects, it's fucking awesome and it's super fun. By all means, do it. Just build it into your schedule.
Yeah. It literally, there's like the arm that comes out and it really is kind of like grab it by the pussy. Like it really would have went well.
That was a missed opportunity on the distributor's part for the tagline.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Lou passes out. It's revealed that the people coming in are Gabriel and Isaac, and the creature's like moaning. He says that it's a great place. Like her body is a great place for the train because her womb is so toxic because of all the drugs and alcohol. And she's like, as he's explaining this to her, she's offering him a shot, which I love. Gabriel tries to stop her from hurting herself. And that's when like the arm of the creature comes out, which is so amazing. I love that scene. This thing is trying to protect itself and she's the host type thing almost. Yeah. Was that the...
Oh, sorry. What's the question? I apologize.
Oh, no. Was that the idea? Like she was the host and it was trying to protect itself. Like he's like, this is my mom. Don't fuck with her.
If I'm being honest, I had not thought of that, but I'd like that. That makes sense. I'll take that.
Yeah. But I love like when it finally crawls out of her, it's so brutal. And she kind of like crumbles like a little, I almost saw her like a tin can.
Yeah.
Like she was like the exoskeleton to this alien life form that was growing inside of her.
Yeah.
How did you shoot that part?
It was tricky to kind of go back to staging. Like, where do you put the actor? Where are we going to hide this? Where are we going to hide that? And, on a big movie or a big Marvel production, yeah, they have all kinds of people that can paint out the cables and rotoscope the green screen and this and that. But we're doing it all kind of practically. I mean, the head being cut off, that's the only thing that was digital. For example, the reason she gets pushed against the wall when she's wrestling with Gabriel, or inside the Gabriel character, is because, okay, if we get her against the wall, then I know I can cut a hole in the wall and the actor can then be positioned on the other side and have his arm cut out like that. So that's an example of how staging and how are you actually going to shoot something will affect the final film. Because, yeah, if I had my druthers, it would, and more time, it would have been a big crazy fight scene and her having her straddling his shoulder and then it comes up. But no, you have like 2 shots to pull this off and they have this action happen. So how we shot that was, you shoot it all in chunks, but the arm coming out of her is literally just a hole in the wall that she's straddling and the arm comes out. And because you're shooting it from overhead, it looks like the arm is coming out from her legs. The head kind of collapsing in was a really fun effect, whereas it was a mold of Natasha, like her head, and a wig. And it's basically just like a balloon. And it was on like a really heavy, like a leaf blower. And we just turned the suction on. So it just sucked it down. Yeah, that's all that was. And then the alien crawling out of her I literally used as much of that shot as I could. If I held it for like 2 more frames, you would have seen like cotton and the seam on the dummy, like those legs, that's the dummy. That's like a dummy in Natasha's costume. And then we had the actor kind of crawl out, and then, you place the camera at an angle that it looks like it reads that way. But so, yeah, it was a lot of dummies, a lot of very precise framing of the shot to kind of hide the tubes and all that stuff that were running into the prosthetics. But that stuff was also fun. That's in the world of problem solving. And again, for all you people that are listening to this or have any interest in practical horror effects, that's a whole other realm of shooting that people don't often talk about. It's like, how do you stage this? How do you actually happen fast in the cut and not look like, oh, the actor steps into their mark to get there head off? Like there are people that do it really well, people that don't do it or don't take into consideration. So it's definitely, I would urge anyone out there who's like interested in that kind of those effects and writing scenes with those effects to really like, it's not a bad thing. It's not to dissuade anyone from doing that, but that is a factor to consider. Like, don't shoot your crazy alien erupting in a moving car. But yeah, those are all like fun problem solving things, but you really don't know until the day of.
Yeah. Well, you did a fantastic job with it. The dream sequence with the gynecology exam was so freaky. And they've got like, I think what freaked me out the most is like watching the Fun Zone mascot with the camera that would go into her. But he's just like using the, what's it called?
The lube?
Yeah, the lube, the lubricant, and just like squeezing it on top. It's obvious. Well, to me, it was like supposed to be the inside of her that you're seeing then. And then you see the head. That's like your first glimpse of what's to come, but you don't know until later that that's what that was. So it was a nice little Easter egg in there. What was that whole sequence like to set that up?
It was challenging because I remember we spent a lot of time deliberating what that camera should look like. There were earlier versions where it was just like a wimpy little pen. And not that I'm trying to have it be like super phallic looking, but I was like, no, it should be like harsh. It should be like something that someone would see like, ooh, I don't put that anywhere near my crotch. We definitely spent some time with the props department trying to find like the best camera, or what would read as the best camera. And then oddly enough, I didn't get that, what you're describing as going the camera's view inside her and then it lands in the mouth. I didn't shoot that until well after the shoot. Like we did the edit and I put together that scene and it didn't have those shots. And I was like, oh, this isn't we need something there to kind of indicate that. So that was like a separate day. And I remember actually, that movie, The Void?
Yeah.
The guys that made The Void worked out the same shop that my monster team worked at. And when we shot those inserts, they were making a bunch of those creatures for The Void. And I was like blown away. They're beautiful. They're amazing. The film actually doesn't, like a lot of times, the film is so darkly lit or has a lot of directional lighting that you didn't really see as many of the details that you could. But the work they did on that film was amazing. But I literally remember like being in one room and then going across the hall. I'm like, oh, let me look at your monsters for The Void. And I just kind of like praising them. They're amazing. Yeah. But, the makeup team, and digressing now, but so my makeup team just made kind of like a funnel with like a fleshy membrane. And then we backlit it. So it had that kind of glowing kind of texture. And then I already had footage of the mouth from the main shoots. And then we just kind of cut it all together.
It came out really well.
Cool. I'm glad. I was always a little concerned that wouldn't play out as I thought, but I'm glad that it registered that way to you.
Yeah, I think if you didn't have that sequence of like the kind of the view of the camera, it would have been a little bit more confusing. But I think the fact that you had that sequence really added to it.
Cool.
So you kind of already talked about conspiracy theories, how you were already kind of in that world whenever you were writing this screenplay and things like that. And a lot of the things you were talking about, I've heard of before. Oh, yeah. Well, I listened to last podcast on the left and they will talk about alien invasions and things like that. And so I kind of get my information from them. They get really deep into conspiracy theories and like the Men in Black and just the different theories people have about aliens. Like, is it a ghost? Is it an alien? could be the same thing, just through different people's perspective. And there has been some credible, whether it's really aliens or it's our government doing experiments, people do see things and they do have reactions. Like that, I don't know exactly where I was. Probably California. A lot of this stuff happens in California. It seems like. But there was a person had like radiation poisoning and stuff that they had entered. They saw an alien, some kind of, circular craft. And then I don't know enough about the actual cases because it's not what I study, but I just know that there are legit claims out there. This isn't just like people with their tinfoil hat.
Totally. No, it's definitely, it seems like culturally it's turned a corner even the past couple of years as far as the credibility of it. Ultimately, I mean, I love to think it's real and I love to indulge in these theories. Ultimately, it doesn't really fucking matter because life in this country and on this planet is just like so bizarre and falling apart that we just need to deal with that. How the fuck am I supposed to get excited about some moon landing or?
Oh my God, yes. I was just thinking that when you said that.
Yeah, so it's just, that's not anything new. African American communities have been like blowing that whistle for generations. So why the fuck are you spending all that money on that when we have people here sleeping in the streets? So that's why I say it's like, yeah.
Whitey on the moon.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put it past humans to not even care if there were fucking aliens at this point, but it would be interesting. I certainly believe. I believe, and I'd like to see some kind of disclosure before I die or some kind of physical evidence, but who knows? I think with the advent of AI imagery generated stuff, it's going to be even harder to parse out truth versus misinformation.
Yeah, this is very true. I mean, I think it's egotistical to think that we're the only thing around.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, Earth is amazing as a planet, I get it. It's like it is unique as far as the habitats it can support and the life it can support in the atmosphere. But the fuck do we know, man? The universe like giant. Just because we put enough fuel on one rocket and got to the moon, we think we know what is in the universe. Like
we've only made it to a moon.
Yeah. So my favorite alien conspiracy theory is that the Greys, like the classic Grey with the big buck eyes, are basically humans, like what we are going to evolve to if we keep on the path they're on. So they're basically like, they're constantly trying to get back to like, what is love and what is laughter? And why do humans care about family? And it's like, if we continue down this road of like just being glued to technology and yada, yada, we're going to end up these weird, like emotionless, like gray bug-like creatures.
I have heard that theory and they're like coming back in time.
I like that one.
No, it's fun. It's fun to play with these theories and these things, but ultimately, we have to be kind of a little bit more rooted in the world that we live in and like fixing it where we are right now.
Yeah, a lot of room for improvement right now.
Yeah. So you have a lot of images of experiments on the TV screens, and there's like a lot of subliminal messaging within that. And it's not like our government has done experiments on people. I don't know if you saw the little like True Horrors connection I have in the beginning about there was like in the Soviet Union, they were trying to impregnate women with ape semen.
I did not know that. That was crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
That is wild.
The apes ended up dying, but like that shit happened. Like especially when it comes to pregnancy in women, this movie resonated with me because so many women have been experimented on because of reproduction and things like that with like babies. And it's a dark, dark rabbit hole you can go down whenever you look up what has happened to women, especially women of color.
Yeah. I mean, they were sterilizing. There was some like secret program in Israel where they were sterilizing people in Gaza and like without against their will and like not telling them. It's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah. It also happened in Puerto Rico. They
really?
Sterilized women.
That's awful. And imagine like, being a young woman and there's a lot of shit that can come with with infertility, right? It's feelings of inadequacy or feelings like, oh, I'm not valuable as a human. And to put someone through that against their will and not even tell them like, no, it's not you. We fucked you up. Like that's dark, man. That was dark.
And when you think about it, it's so much easier to just give men like the snip, but they just chose to do it to the women.
Yeah. It is wild. And then meanwhile, you have fucking assholes like Al Pacino, like 88 years old with like a 25-year-old wife on his third kid. Fucking crazy. One of my last jobs in Manhattan when I graduated film school was like at a video post house. And this was like before fucking YouTube, before smartphones. But we had a videotape that Al Pacino's agent dropped off to get duplicated. And it was literally a VHS tape to be played for his child before he went to sleep because he's such like an absentee father. And it was Al Pacino was going, peekaboo, peekaboo, I love you. Okay, it's time for bed, Betty, bye. But it was a self-made tape. So it's not, no makeup, no good lighting, just like shitty fucking lamp off to the side, giant bags under his eyes. He looked freaky. But,
wow, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that was my last job in New York City.
You sound like the Cookie Monster.
A little bit, yeah.
What was that footage from, though?
Which footage?
The footage that was like playing on the videos on the TV.
Some of it I shot, and some of it was a friend of my editors gave us a hard drive full of a bunch of like license-free, like government archive footage. It's like all the stuff with the monkeys and like the one where like the woman is like putting out a picnic and this kind of like Technicolor, like dreamy situation. Those were all like just off this weird government archive that I had. But then like other stuff I shot on my own, like the guy eating the hoagie on the toilet or the guy giving the alien abduction speech was like a friend of mine. A little piece of trivia, the constant flashes of like the guy in the hood, like kind of kidnapping her when she's having these visions. That's me. Like I made that mask. I just shot that with like this Fresnel lens. So it kind of looks like it's going all crazy. But that's my little cameo in the movie.
Nice. You always have to have that.
Yeah, why not? I try to tell people, young filmmakers, young people all the time, people come out to me like, oh, you're so successful. What are you doing? I was like, my struggle is still the same as it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Like it's still a grind. Yeah. So if you want to make like, a Friday the 13th remake for A24, or if you want to pillage some studio's IP to pitch a sequel, like, yeah, you'll have some opportunities. But if you want to make...
That sounds so fucking boring.
And it is fucking boring. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why the movie industry is struggling, because people don't want to see this shit. All to say that, like, yeah, it can be, not to discourage anyone or dissuade anyone, because the analogy I like to use is like, if you want to make IP films and you want to be fucking married and have a nuclear family and a heteronormative appearance, there's a long line with a lot of people going to that stand at the market. If you want to make weird shit, you have to go past that line, past the dumpsters, around the loading dock, down into the basement, and then you'll get to the table of weird filmmaking.
How did you want the audience to interpret the ending of this film?
I kind of just wanted it. I like endings in films that are like hard left turns or just kind of like leave you kind of like, what the fuck? So the antagonistic kind of contrarian to me definitely wanted to be just kind of like a slap to the face. I'm like, what the fuck did I just see? And, that's why like the title comes at the very end of the movie. There's no credits or title at the beginning of the movie. The movie just starts and you go in, which is not how most people do it. I remember people were like, really? You don't want to put I was like, no, that's the whole point. At the end is like a punch. And it's like, boom, Antibirth. So I wanted it to just physically and aesthetically, I wanted it to have powerful impact. Narratively and thematically, I feel like I said everything I wanted to say with the villain's kind of speech or denouement at the end where he breaks down the whole, your womb is so toxic, yada, yada. So I feel like I put all the information out that I wanted to. And as far as like, what happens next or where does anyone come to kill that monster or does the monster escape? I was not terribly concerned with that. I like open ending, amorphous kind of endings to allow the audience to kind of have their own interpretation. It's everything is so physical and obvious. It's not a subtle, it's not a subtle film. I mean, I can honestly say like I made a movie that like I would like to see and that I would enjoy watching. So I'm proud of it in that regard. Would I do it the same if I made that same script 10 years later? No. Like I've often thought that whole movie should have just taken place in the trailer. Like you should have you should have never left the trailer. It should have just been like a freak out for like an hour and a half. But then, it's harder to build in these other characters and do this world building stuff. But anyway, all to say, I definitely got to do what I wanted to do, and I made the movie that I wrote. So, I mean, it was a battle and it was a struggle, but it was, no one had any input in that ending other than me.
I loved it. You're just like shocked. You're like watching the monster holding its head, and it's just so great. And it cuts out, and it's just like, what the fuck just happened?
Awesome. I love that.
Like, is that thing going to go around and terrorize people now? Like, yeah, you kind of have these scenarios in your head about what's going to happen to this creature. Or, I mean, it looks like a monster. It reminded me of the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That was definitely a reference I had with the monster team. I wanted something kind of reptilian and amphibious looking, but not necessarily green and kind of. So yeah, that was definitely a reference we had.
Okay, nice. Yeah, no, it looks great. I mean, and it looks like its own creature too. It's way creepier than the creature from the Black Lagoon.
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it definitely has its own design, but yeah, that image of the creature standing in a wide shot, holding its head, that was something that was kind of burned in my brain for a long time before we shot it. So I knew that's how I wanted it to end, and then it was kind of. There are some people that don't like it when you retrofit your writing, like I just said, meaning I had this image in my head. Okay, I know that's how I want it to end. So how do I get to there? Like there's some people that are against that, that think, oh no, the writing should happen organically and what is actually happening for the character, but that's not necessarily the kind of
the
writer.
Character's dead.
Yeah. It's a character. So, but yeah, it's that ending was definitely something I was pretty excited to complete.
I guess my last question for you is going to be, how do you feel about this film nearly a decade later, which you kind of mentioned, like you would do things a little bit differently because it is a decade later. But also on top of that, does this film hit differently in today's cultural climate? I
would think that it would, with just how much more toxic our world is. I don't know. I have a weird feeling with it, and at the risk of sounding morose or pessimistic, like it took me a long time to kind of like recover from that movie, for lack of a better word. And like I had health issues afterwards. Like I literally, it's funny, after, I have never really told anyone that said this publicly. It's not like a secret, but I'll tell you, it's a funny piece of trivia. Like after we finished the movie, I went in for like a hernia surgery. And then they're like, oh, you actually have a giant mass in your chest that's like the size of a grapefruit. And it's been growing there for years. And it's like, we're you need surgery. We're going to take it out. But just so you know, like it might have like calcified in spots. So it might actually have teeth. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I just finished this like body horror movie. And now you're telling me you're going to remove this like sack with teeth from my chest. And anyway, I never got to see it because I was fucking out. And they just, microscopically with a robot went inside my body and deflated this thing and pulled it out. But I was definitely like, what are the odds that I write like a body horror movie and now I have like this weird fucking melon inside my chest? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest. I like it. And like, I was just saying, I'm proud of myself for making the movie that I wanted to make. Like I'll always be able to look back and be like, I did what I wanted to do. Like there's no one that told me like, nah, you have to do this and you have to do that. And mind you, there were warnings. I had people warn me before I made that movie, like, you sure you want to go down this road? Like, this is a really fucking weird movie. And I was like, nah, man, it's cool. What I like. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would definitely do it differently now. But at the very least, I'm happy with it because I'll always be able to look back on Antibirth, and it definitely points me to a pretty specific time in my life. And it's, I appreciate that.
Well, I think it's a fantastic movie. I think if it was introduced to an audience right now, I think it would have a drastically different reaction, especially when it comes to female autonomy and just the way that women are portrayed in horror as opposed to 10 years ago. I think there's a much wider audience for this now than there was then.
Well, that's the beauty of this medium, right? Or something like it can find its audience, and it might take time, but it's been such a pleasure talking with you and knowing that there are women out there that had this response to it, because you're definitely the target audience. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, I feel like in real time, you've changed my processing of this film. I'm like, oh, maybe there are actually people out there that liked it. So I appreciate that.
Well, I'm so glad that I could change that for you, because there are a lot of people that like it, and I will keep talking about this film and keep getting it out there. So
Awesome.
Don't worry. Let's end on a high note.
Oh my goodness.
Weekly horror update. Obsession is in theaters today, the 15th. A dark, twisted wish fulfillment horror movie written and directed by Curry Barker. This one is on a lot of people's lists as their favorite of the year. And the actress playing Nikki is being praised for her performance. She apparently is carrying this movie on her back. She is very convincing and terrifying from what I hear. Hokum is in theaters. Still hearing great things about that. I honestly haven't seen a bad review about this movie, so that's a good thing. Releasing later in May, we have Passenger, a supernatural folk horror that's going to be in theaters on May 22nd. Corporate Retreat is also being released on the 22nd. It is a grueling survival horror thriller. A new movie called Saccharin. It's a sci-fi drama blending supernatural and body horror. It's all about weight loss, and honestly, I think that this movie looks really good. Backrooms is also coming out on the 29th, and it is based on a popular creepypasta. Send Help is now available to stream at home, as well as Faces of Death. If you have an indie horror movie you would like to talk to me about, you can email me at screamqueenpodcaster@gmail.com. I love talking to the creatives out there, getting their hands bloody about what's at the heart of their horror movie. This is a weekly podcast with new episodes out every Friday. All the research, writing, and audio is done by yours truly. This is a one-woman show, and I am doing my very best. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. It really means a lot. You can find me on Instagram at Scream Queen Podcaster, Blue Sky at Scream Queen Podcast, TikTok at Scream Queen Podcast, and there's a link tree that will take you to my YouTube and Facebook page as well. Remember, make sure you have a valid friend group that isn't going to let someone experiment on you in a back room with plastic curtains and inject you with purple fluid that will then make you impregnated with an alien life form. But also, just no one should be doing anything to you without your consent, point blank. I think that's the whole point of this, more than anything. And valuing life. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.